Another day, another dollar with the fine folks. It's Leak.
And
It's
it's Billy. I said your name.
hmm.
It's your boy Biggs. We back in the building.
We got Madison with us today.
Hi.
Yo, um,
Hola.
yeah. So since we last touched base, I think a lot of things have happened. We've seen a lot of change, in kind of news cycles, and sometimes it feels like we jumping from one wild thing to happen to the next. But the most
Yeah.
recent thing to happen, I think that sort of impacted us all on some level is this most recent school shooting in Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By another troubled white teen who, may or may have not been bullied and who gave a warning, allegedly. No, the school was given a warning, allegedly, and, he was saying his sorries, allegedly. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, one thing we can't say about him is that he's rude. At least he apologized. A lot of
What?
people wouldn't
You
apologize.
apologize for shooting up a school?
Uh,
Let's give him a cookie.
Gold star seems more apt. No, but we see these mass shootings kind of heighten, I guess, in frequency, especially recently. We've seen some pretty chilling things. One of the wildest things I remember that really had me realize kind of where we were with it, like as far as like us being at this apex of gun violence and in places like schools or just urban centers, concerts, stuff like that, was kind of that video where the young man had like some GoPro style thing, like a helmet thing or whatever, and he was like literally videotaping himself shooting up that grocery store like it was a video game or something like that. It's like, I don't know if it's a chicken or egg situation. I don't know if it's we're having so many mass shootings because we're constantly
Showing it?
not just showing it, because there's also the copycat factor, but also just engaging in this fervent culture around guns. But it also feels like perhaps some of this stuff is just people of a certain nature, right, with certain mental issues going on, being able to get their hands on weapons. Right, but I don't know what the spike is. There's definitely a spike in these type of crimes, and perhaps that's like monkey see, monkey do type shit, where it's just like it's something that people can always go to when they want to shock and harm in that way. But
I don't know, man. I just kind of see a constant pattern, especially on election years, where we see the most just like disturbing news we can possibly see worldwide. You know what I mean? Like not even just on U.S. soil, but like other foreign affairs that the United States might be involved in. You know what I mean? Or are definitely involved in. And I don't know. I'm not gonna just jump to conclusion and say there's direct correlation, but I just find it very interesting, intriguing that years like this where we have to choose who our leader is going to be for the next 4 years is where we see tragic things like this happen. Tragic things like this happen all the time. Unfortunately, I mean, even on non-election years, but like definitely seen a surge of a lot of like extreme violence. You know what I mean? Like a lot of lives being taken, and from the wars that's going on in Gaza, or just like I said on our own soil with the school shooting. I don't know, man. Like at this point, we just somebody gotta be accountable. I mean, somebody's gotta be held accountable. It's just a lot of finger pointing and no explaining, no explanations of what's going on for real. You know what I mean? Like,
well, as far as what, like the school shootings?
yeah, you know what I mean. Like, why don't we know everything we need to know about this situation already? Right? Like, if you already know who the person is and he's apparently sent out messages to his folks the day before and his folks were the ones that tried to warn the school, and like why did it still happen this way? You know what I mean? And like I don't know. I don't know. It just leaves you in a state of what's to come. You know what I mean? Like what's to happen next, moving forward. It's kind of scary.
And what about you, Madison?
I feel like he did warn them, and even his mom. Like she called the school, and then I read today that she's spoken to his counselor multiple times about like him having homicidal and suicidal thoughts. That's allegedly. I don't know if it's true, but it was from a news bracket. So I feel like the school system failed the kids. Because if you have a kid like that, I'm pretty sure you put them in like the psych ward or something to prevent them harming themselves or anything.
Well, yeah.
It wasn't done. So, but I feel like everybody is to blame at some point in the situation.
Yeah, and I think it gets tough. It gets tough when you're relying on families to perhaps admit that somebody, I guess he's a teenager, so that's his mother and his family and everything like that. And I guess it's not always easy to try to face when your child is kind of a danger in that way to himself and others. But it seems that there was some kind of attempt made to kind of warn people about the possibility of him getting to this point, and it's tough because again, like I said, we are seeing an increase in the past few years in just mass shootings in general, and school shootings are a trend at this point, right? It's something that's happening startlingly often, right? Like this is going back to even like the Parkland kids. This is just something that it seems like the next one is around the corner. It's really happening at a rate that I don't think anybody could have predicted we would be in this case. So maybe there are people that predicted we'd be in this case because, again, a lot of it ties to it. And then people say they don't like to make moments like this political. I think most things are political when we really get into it. I'm not accusing people of thinking politically when they're making up their mind about certain things, but what you decide also ends up being political to some extent. Like what we feel about the sort of ease of access of firearms, what we feel about that playing a role in some of this stuff, like ultimately if it ends up being political, right? Because kind of what being political means when people ask you not to be political is not to say anything that kind of upsets the status quo. Right? If you're agreeing with everybody, it's not considered political. But the second you're saying anything that somebody else might disagree about or that the majority don't agree about, it becomes political. But it definitely... It'd be curious to try to wrap our heads around how people like this are getting their hands on weapons in the first place, and what I think needs to change. Like even if it's like a son getting his
right,
parents' weapon.
Yeah, like that's kind of like where it seems to be happening. Where, especially that kid, what is he, like a young teenager, 14, 15,
he's like
something.
14.
Right. So like, you gotta be getting it from, especially like, geographically where he's from, right? I'm sure he didn't go to his nearest street merchant who sells firearms, you know what I mean, illegally, and went to go purchase a weapon. Like I'm sure it was a hunting rifle or even a pistol that's owned by a parent.
Yeah, his dad gifted it to him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So, and that's the interesting part too, right? Us growing up in New York City, we are one of the few places around the nation, I believe, where to get into a lot of these schools, you have to go through a metal detector, right? So like, they have precautions to make sure weapons are not being brought into the building.
Some schools.
A lot more in the public basically all of them that do that are public schools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like a lot of the public schools do that.
Yeah, a lot of them do. And I think, but because I think that's kind of the link where it goes. A lot of people don't necessarily like that, right? They don't like the kind of feeling it creates about suspicion around the children and stuff like that. But then also some of the neighborhoods where you see the metal detector thing, the schools do have like histories of like violent things happening at schools.
Right.
Not on any crazy ridiculous level or something like that, but just like I know Erasmus by us. I know somebody had like stabbed somebody over there like
Yeah.
a few years ago and stuff like that. And I'm sure they have metal detectors, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
but it becomes, is it? Do we think that that necessarily has an effect on the minds of the children when you do something like that, when they have to walk in somewhere where
for
they're aware that
sure.
everybody's being metal detected down because somebody might have a weapon and intend to hurt them?
I mean, for sure, but at this point, it's a pick your poison. I think. You know what I mean? Do we want them feeling like, I guess, like essentially this is a prison, or do we want to ensure their safety? Because I don't think we can have both. You know what I mean? In today's climate, I don't think we can have both. You know what I mean? Like, do schools in more rural areas like Georgia, you know, like the Carolinas, New Jersey, do they adopt how schools operate out here, like in the cities, or even, you know, I'm pretty sure like this, like, you know, certain cities like, you know, Chicago or you know, maybe LA or stuff like that. I'm sure that they have schools that got metal detectors in them. You know what I mean? Or like some higher level of security. You know what I'm saying? Like do more schools just straight up adopt, you know, or like just fund security. Security measures, metal detectors, cameras, or personnel. You know what I mean? Because this is just, it's getting ridiculous. Like, clearly, people are not safe. People's kids are not safe when they go to school. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to go to a more extreme possibility where maybe we're in a world where teachers have to carry now. Or teachers have to take a self-defense class, you know what I mean? Or go to a shooting range to learn how to operate a firearm and have one in the classroom and whatnot. Like,
yeah, it's, you know, that's something that would be, that's an argument that people are having of whether or not teachers should be armed and trained in how to use a firearm and things of that nature. I don't know. I don't know, because I'm still trying to figure out where I am on the whole firearm issue in general, right? Where it's like, I can see sort of both sides. I can see where like the types of firearms being sold as well as the amount of firearms being sold kind of just feels ridiculous. But at the same time, I could understand firearms kind of being the most effective self-defense tool other than being fast enough to run away. But self-defense tool that a lot of Americans feel like they have. Which I don't know how to feel about that either. I don't know about the idea that that's the best and most effective. But that seems to be what people think, right? And it seems to, you know, it is I guess, a violation of a constitutional right to bear arms that a lot of people are not willing to compromise on. That makes things difficult. But I mean, how do you feel about that? The right to bear arms and such.
oh man, I don't know, man. I feel like there needs to be some reworking. I mean, not even just firearms, but like, you know, our Constitution in general. It was made so long ago in a time where things were completely different. You know what I mean? Like, we don't think the same today. A lot of things that they deemed okay, socially okay, we would probably look at like they're animals or savages. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done to our Constitution, in my opinion.
Sure, I think with respect to firearms in particular, I think that a lot of people say that when they wrote in the right to bear arms, like bearing arms meant something significantly different than it does today. Like there weren't like these submachine guns and automatic rifles and all that shit.
Like the amount of high tech weapons that people have access to now.
Yeah, like if the people that wrote the Constitution were to have had access to kind of be able to see the sheer breadth of weaponry that would exist.
I don't think that they would do that.
But then, right, or even like
there would be a lot of restrictions on the right to bear arms.
Yeah, right? But like even like upkeep of small militia and stuff like that being kind of written in the language. One could argue that states like New York are directly denying or making it very, very difficult to execute something that is a fundamental right. Right, this is what's tough is that there's a lot of people that really, really believe in the firearm thing badly, and it's like, listen, I wouldn't. If the government took away everybody's guns, I don't know if I'm politically in a place where I would be upset about it. I think we could always ask questions as to what it means, right? Because what does it mean? In America is, some people jokingly refer to it as gun and God country, but I mean, I think that there's certain sections of America that are very gun and God, I guess. So take away guns, what's next, right? But I don't know. Me personally, I don't necessarily. I know that the breadth and scope of firearms being sold to me doesn't really make sense. I don't understand how people are getting access to some of the weapons they're getting.
That's because of their local state laws.
Yeah.
A lot of these states where these things happen, mainly, it's real easy to go get a gun. You know what I mean? Like there are gun shows that occur all over the nation.
Yeah, we could. People are selling guns on that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like they don't have to do a background check. As long as they just give you the price, as long as you have the money, you can just go buy a firearm from somebody, and they could care less what you're going to go use that gun to go do. You know what I mean? Like they're doing their due diligence by telling you what the product is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like what and what not to do with it, how to use it, blah blah blah. But like past that, that's now it's legally out of their jurisdiction, and they have no fault to that. You know what I mean? Like there's no fault to the seller of these weapons. So maybe that's something that you can do. You know what I mean? Like put higher restrictions on the sale of a firearm and even the purchase. You know what I mean? Like there should be way more things in place. That's why I said like the Constitution needs restrictions. Like that whole right to bear arms, there needs to be an asterisk next to it. You know, barring mental health and history within like the last like 10, 15 years. And
well, something like, how do you feel about? I think I don't know if it's for a certain amount of years or just period. There's places that if you have domestic violence in your history, you can't own a firearm.
Right. Things like that. Like if you are a quote unquote criminal and have done time before, like was it non-violent or was it just credit card fraud? You know what I mean? Like I believe somebody who's done a white collar crime could still own a firearm. Chances are that person is not going to go shoot up a school. In my opinion.
Well, I mean, isn't the person most likely to shoot up a school a student after school?
True.
No.
No?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Oh wait, no.
I feel like, I don't know, some people are just evil just to be evil.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
psychology plays into it a lot because you have to understand how these people's minds work and what they're thinking and how they're feeling. So I feel like it's not only students. I feel like a regular grown man could just go do that because that's what he feels like on that day. Exactly.
Didn't that happen in where they was mad at the police for not running in?
Yeah.
That was a grown man that didn't go to school. Right?
Yeah. And there was another one where a woman went to inside of an elementary school, and the police, she definitely killed her on arrival.
Yeah.
As soon as they got inside, they definitely did what they had to do.
Who was behind the Parkland shooting again? I forget.
The which one?
The Parkland shooting, where the Parkland survivors are like, those kids that are always talking. I think they survived a school shooting. It was like real bad. I don't know who it was that did it. I don't know if it was a student or an adult. But yeah, perhaps also that's just buying into like the old trope, right? Where like the first really famous school shooting we could point to is like Columbine, and those were students. And then from there we got this kind of slew of just like art and news about like school shootings and stuff like that. Like you had like the song by Pearl Jam, Jeremy. You had like the idea of a school shooting was like romanticized, I think, after the Columbine shooting, where it became like a real thing that was a fear.
Weirdly romanticized.
Yeah, or it's like I just said, there was like a lot of art made about it. But there is something. I think it just touches that classic idea of a school shooting. I think it just touches on a lot of things. I think that we feel as a society around being accepted versus being not accepted, or about bullying. Or not to say that all these people were victims of being bullied, but that's kind of the trope, the classic trope. It's like the kid who never really fit in, and who knows how much truth there is behind it.
And they may need to adopt metal detectors everywhere. I think so.
But then these things also have the tendency to kind of skew the way we look at the world, where it's like the vast majority of kids are going to school every day and coming home without having been shot. Right? Like it is happening more often than it used to happen, and it's an alarming trend, right? But like, dude, like this is what happens: is these things kind of take over us and make us really scared to exist, and this is why it's called domestic terrorism, I guess, right? Is that when you know these things can happen anywhere, you never really feel safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I hope one day we figure it out.
Mm.
And by figure it out, I mean like just like have systems in place where we can prevent this from even happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where let's if the whole thing about his mother trying to contact the school and warn them, like if that's as true as they say, we need systems in place to where like they got to take that a little bit more serious. You know what I mean? Because if she did do that, then it's either they slightly they embellished a little, and she probably didn't like fully warn them for real. She probably just told them like disturbing things he may have said or something like that. I don't know, but like there just needs to be, moving forward, there needs to be something set in place where you kind of take that a little bit more serious, and be able to hold somebody on at least like a 24 to 48 hour lockdown to get to the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? Sit in a room with a psychologist and let's get to the bottom of this.
I mean, between the time they leave the house and the time they get to where they're going, though, like how much time is that?
No, they were saying this was like a day or two before, prior.
Oh, okay.
Not even same day.
So when the mother had warned, that was like a day prior.
Yeah, this was prior to the day that it happened.
Wow.
That's what I mean. So like they listened to her and nobody sprung into action.
What does springing into action look like?
What I just said.
No, I'm asking honestly.
Confronting him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like bringing it straight to his attention before.
Not allowing him into school.
Before he mentally pulls that trigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Before he mentally he says to himself, "All right, I'm gonna go do this right now."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you got that contemplation stage where he's still kind of thinking about it. Like, you know what I mean? They're kind of like they're on the fence about it. They want to do it. They have a desire to do it, but they haven't just gathered themselves up to do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there was a day or two prior to where he actually fulfilled what he wanted to do. So it's like if they take her warning more serious. Yeah,
you go like you try to find them, you arrest them, and stuff like that.
Maybe you prevent all of this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe you save fellow students and teachers from getting shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you save a bunch of other kids from getting injured. You save a bunch of parents from worrying about their children. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just observing.
Yeah.
That's all I can do at this point.
Yeah, man. Speaking of the whole, speaking of not wanting to be political and stuff like that, we'll go right into being somewhat political. It seems like we're in the middle of another firestorm as far as Trump is concerned, and as far as the election is concerned in general. The stuff with obviously the stuff with Joe Biden came to a head as he ended up dropping out of the race, and Kamala Harris took over his position as the leading candidate for the Democratic Party. I am just I guess we kind of knew we were going to stand here. We kind of knew we were going to be here where it would be like extremely charged and extremely strange again. But the Donald Trump thing just seems to be the gift that keeps on giving as far as like surprising things. Like there is just from his first being elected and in kind of a campaign that I think a lot of us thought was like a joke and didn't realize what it symbolized as far as like the nation being like so divided and kind of so silly that we would see something as historically foolish as his campaign turning serious and him being elected.
And actually,
Right?
yeah, becoming president, yeah.
And if you think about like January 6th and just how weird his entire presidency has been and like the kind of real strange dictatory things he's trying to do, um, for us to be in a situation where he ended up getting indicted on like several felonies
And still
and
being
like
able to
it's,
still
run.
running for
like
president.
it's still running for president and still seems to have a pretty good shot at it, especially after like I said January 6th and things like that. Is we're in a strange place, and of course, what feels like every candidate since Obama, and Obama's really been scrutinized more than I'm about to give him credit for. But it feels like every candidate that the Democratic Party has handed up after Obama has kind of just gotten whatever.
Right.
Like it's like people got behind him a little bit. They wanted him to win a little bit, but it just seemed like the love for them could be overpowered by the skepticism,
Yeah.
and then just the outright opposition that you see on the other side. But I don't know. Like people weren't excited about Joe Biden. But the weird thing about Kamala is it's not like Kamala's somebody who's captured everybody's hearts before, right? It's like I think kind of the reason she ended up being vice president is because I don't think people were responding to her as well in a presidential situation. But
do you think there's still I guess a misogynistic type of view?
well, you know, there's always some of that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like people just not wanting a woman
I think
There's-
there'll always
to
be
run?
that.
There's
That'll always happen.
always some of that, but it can be overcome, right? And as far as like, I think number one, I think we're gonna have a woman be president someday. I don't unless this thing ends in like the next 10, 15 years. I just don't see how like at some point in the future it doesn't happen. Even if it's just so America could pat itself on the back and say we did it,
Right.
but I think there's some of that. I think that there's always kind of the disinformation and confusion train that gets put out around political candidates for these parties, where it's kind of like there's a bunch of layers on which Kamala Harris is running into kind of, I guess, blockage, but she's also doing really well. Like people really like her, but she's also divisive in some ways. There are people that think that she's not a real black candidate. There's people that just there's people that, like you guys are saying, like with the sexism angle, the misogyny. But I think that ultimately the Democrats will stand behind who they have to stand behind, because I think that a lot of people believe that the alternative is something that's untenable, right? Whether you like Kamala Harris or not, I think that most people who would vote Democrat in the first place would be aligned in thinking that having Trump win is worse than having damn near anybody on the Democratic side win.
But how? I don't know. How is Kamala not black?
I think, okay, her mom is, I believe, Indian, and her dad is, I believe, Jamaican.
Yeah, but
But
they
somewhere
always.
along the line, they're saying she's like, I think like South Asian or something.
That's what Indian is. Indian is South Asian.
Yeah.
But
So they keep saying like, oh, she's not actually black, and I'm like,
yeah, and then there's debate over whether the Jamaican part of her is like black or Indo. It's just
What?
she's literally, to me, that's black. I'm sorry, your
Yeah, I
dad
mean-
is Jamaican, you're black.
Yeah.
What?
But there's Afro Jamaicans, there's Chinese Jamaicans.
And she's not either one of those.
I don't know. I
She's
don't
not
know.
Chinese Jamaican.
I think her dad's black. I don't see why he's not. There's some people that argue that he's not black. I don't know. I've not seen anything that makes me feel like he's not black, but I don't know.
I don't know why they're doing that though, because you could be Trinidadian and be Indian, and you're considered black. You're just considered a coolie. So I don't like. What's the problem?
Yeah,
with
but
her?
there's some coolies who not black, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think it's all just race is a very ethereal thing. It's not like something that's generally, it's kind of made up.
Yeah.
But when people say black, they talking like, African descended, and there's a lot of people in Trinidad who are just clearly just Indians, like that don't have much African blood in them at all, which is not a problem. I guess I guess one could argue it doesn't make you black though, but
They
I don't.
brown.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't think that
They
anybody.
brown boys and brown girls.
I don't think that anybody's confirmed that Kamala's father is Afro Jamaican or whatever. Which is not, again. I don't even think these things are that important. I know why they're important to other people. I know like representation and the chances of having things, kind of straighten out on our end for us sometimes. It's something that's really attractive to people, but I don't know. I kind of just feel like she's an establishment politician anyway, so she's gonna be a better option than Trump. But I don't know if like people are looking for like radical change. I don't necessarily know that Kamala Harris is but I don't know which president has been that. I don't remember the last president that was that had the interests of people that wanted to see radical change at heart. Right. So that's where it gets tough.
Especially at the top, all at the top.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Obama did a lot of really nice things, but in a lot of ways he was very of the establishment, very establishment. But also
You
again,
just call Obama a company man?
I think Obama was definitely a company man. I think Obama, but I don't think. But also, I think Obama was pretty liberal. Like I think he's done some things that I think were good examples of liberal politics. But I've also like he's done some things that kind of toe the line, where it's like that's kind of.
So is Trump a company man?
Trump a company man, like if you own the company, right? It's like he gonna play by his rules, but he's gonna uphold the establishment as far as it serves him, and try to rip it down where it doesn't. But I think Trump.
That's not a company man.
I mean, yeah, because a company man generally is like kind of like. That's why I said he could be a company man if the company was his. Like, company man generally doesn't own the company. Trump likes to move like he owns a company, and then it's like, well, yeah, it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, but I don't know.
I don't know, man.
It's a strange world. I mean, look, I just don't see how anybody could feel like Trump is the way to go. But I understand that a lot of people do. It's weird out here, but people are being people are susceptible to strange messaging online. People are building these like little echo chambers in communities, and it's becoming it's impacting the real world in a material way.
I don't even think that some of these, like even Trump, right? I don't even think Trump, like truly likes the people that support him.
Oh, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like the real extreme radicals, like who kind of tie just the whole presidency itself into a racial thinking. Like, you know what I mean? Like I seen a video the other day. It was a group, I forgot what state, it was a southern state, and it was just a group of Confederates waving, Confederacy flags around.
Mm.
I think they had like an upside down American flag, and it was like a vote for Trump type of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't even think Trump truly likes them, those people like that, but they're supporting the cause, so it's like, all right, I'm gonna act like I do. You know what I mean? Like, because they're turning it into, like, in their head, they're turning it into something that it's not. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're choosing our leader. You know what I mean? Like, we're choosing the guy who has this list of things that they're promising and that they plan on doing that doesn't even necessarily align with those radicals. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are new tax codes and new things that Trump wants to do financially that would hurt some of those guys. You know what I mean? But it's like
I heard a lot of the people voting for him, yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're just gonna do it anyway because to them it's a race thing.
And it's always strange to see when people who are kind of outside of the establishment fight so hard for conservation of the establishment, where it's just like the establishment kind of does nothing for you, kind of has done nothing for you, and like it's also this space that Trump gets to occupy as like this anti-establishment person who was like 115% handcrafted by the establishment.
Right.
where it's like comes from wealth, is trying to uphold systems that benefit the wealthy, which is a lot of candidates are trying are at the mercy of the wealthy because of the way that a lot of these people's campaigns are funded. But
Yeah.
you know, it's weird that like Trump is the voice of the anti-establishment when it feels like in so many ways he's just extra establishment. You know.
I don't think we'll ever see somebody who's truly solid, a solid person, make it that far up the ladder. All the way to president? Nah, man. I
mean,
think as real as it gets, it's Obama. And that's pretty much it. You know?
I mean, and in what ways is Obama like as real as it gets? You think? Like, what, like when you say that, what do you reference in like being as real as it gets? Like as good as it gets from a progressive policy point of view?
Being a man of the people. You know? A man of the people who really need help. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure he did some things that helped out some rich folk who could care less about the less fortunate. But like at the same time, you know, without him, do we have Medicaid? Right? Are people getting their Obama phones? They free Obama phones and they free Obama tablets? You know what I mean? Like, my boy's giving out insurance and communication devices. Meanwhile, at least in New York City, I don't know about nationally, but at least in New York City, everybody hype about that little 600 funky ass dollars that Trump was giving us during the pandemic.
I mean, yeah, but I also think people don't understand necessarily how presidency works.
Like they keep bringing that up as if we're about to get that back.
And
we're not getting that again, guys.
Not even just that, like the idea that Trump did that and that another president wouldn't have under certain circumstances is just kind of like it's weird. It's weird where we just decide to give presidents credit. But even then, I think I think a lot of people think the president has more power than the president does. And I say that whilst respecting just the massive amount of power that the president does wield. It's like sometimes I'm confused when people will even let a candidate get away with saying he's going to do something or she's going to do something. And I'm like, did you run that by everybody who you would have to run that by to try to make that happen? Like saying that this is what you have planned is one thing, but like making it come to fruition in the system of checks and balances is its whole own other thing.
Yeah, definitely not. They're definitely not getting everything that they want to do off.
No, and then when so many of their concern, as we see, is them setting themselves up to be reelected, then there's always like that humbling of like, okay, like I still do need to like win an election, right? Like you still have to campaign, you still have to make yourself attractive to the most Americans possible.
I just hope whoever gets elected next, they don't touch that whole what is it? Loan forgiveness. Don't touch that, man. Leave that section of whatever sector that's under. Leave that one alone, please.
Okay.
Whoever.
You enjoying that?
Whoever.
You enjoying that?
I'm not enjoying it yet, but hopefully one day I will.
What you mean by that?
When they let me know I don't owe that bread no more.
I'm crying.
You feel me? Like, yeah.
Oh, I thought so. You weren't swept up in the loan forgiveness thing?
Nah, I think it was only a certain sector of people.
Damn, they didn't forgive your loan.
So I think it was first of all, it was definitely everybody who already been on loan. Like they already like under their whole like loan thing from like years ago already. So like I think you've already had to be making payments on your loan for some time now. Yeah. Right? And then I think it was what do they call them? Like not like non-profit workers. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the non-profit sector where you do like a lot of community work or just the jobs where like people are not looking to get rich. Like if you're in that field, then you are definitely eligible for loan forgiveness. But like if you're a finance major looking to get onto Wall Street and whatnot, like you're definitely they're not doing that. they're not doing that for you. Yeah. It's a lot of different. But then there's another loan forgiveness thing where I believe you have to sign up for it, and you either make low payments or no payments, and then after a certain amount of time that goes by, you will be eligible for complete loan forgiveness. So, there's things in place for people that, you kind of have to, like, just kind of sign up for and just, wish for the best. But that's better than just, like, having no loan forgiveness at all, in my opinion.
True. True. How long have you been paying your loans off?
Since I graduated. So, that's been 2018.
Like 6 years, right?
Yeah.
And how much longer do you think you got to go?
A long ass time, unless I hit the lotto.
What?
Unless I hit the lotto.
Huh. And what are your thoughts on the price of education these days?
Shoot, in America, sky high. Sky high. The amount of money you got to pay to go get an education, higher education. You know what I mean? That's a house. That's a mansion. It's a few luxury cars or a private jet. You know what I mean? Like, it's that type of money.
You feel like it shouldn't be that way?
It doesn't have to be. At the very least, I know that it doesn't have to be. There are countries that have figured out the whole, free educational, free insurance.
Yeah.
Maybe not both, maybe one or the other, but there are countries that have totally figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I think these are the questions we have to ask ourselves, especially as we age and we start to want to participate more in a lot of these systems and enter a lot of these conversations. But I don't know. I think this was a good return episode, and we'll try to build off it next week.
Yeah, for sure. Until next time, people. Love y'all. Fuck with y'all.